Welcome everybody to a Realvolve webinar. Today we have Kendyl Young. She is owner and founder of Diggs, a residential real estate company in Glendale, California. She sold her first home in 1987, and not to make anyone feel bad, I was a sophomore in high school at that point with
Okay, you're
no
no longer my
dreams of
favorite
real
person.
estate in my mind yet. And
You
since
had to
then,
go there, didn't you?
since then, she has sold well over 1,000 homes. She's been featured as Inman News, uh, one of the most powerful women in real estate. She's been featured by Realtor Magazine and well known across the country. She manages two buyer's agents, two full-time staff, and in addition, she is a team member on the Revolve company. So we are very excited to have her. Kendyl, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to you and learn like everybody else. So thank you for being on with us.
Well, you betcha. So today I wanted to talk about how I use Realvolve in my business right here, right now. And I think what is interesting and different about my perspective is that unlike most people working for a software company, I'm actively selling real estate. Last year we doubled our business. This year we are, hoping to we are going to double our business again. And scaling that way comes with a lot of stress, anxiety, chaos potentially, and I'm not a chaos person. I'm not a drama person. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about how I use Realvolve, but honestly, and I'll be really honest with you, Dave may like this or not, but I think he will, this message is valuable and important to all of you no matter what system you're using, as long as you're using a system. So I'm going to show you how I use Realvolve to really organize and keep my business on track and scale it to doubling and doubling and doubling. But you can take from this presentation a lot of value no matter what system you're using. But for some of you, the message you're going to get is you should have a system, right? So the title of this presentation is Save Time, Make Money, which I'm sure goes to the heart of what everybody is looking for. Just to get started, Dave gave me a great introduction. I am the broker owner of Diggs. You can check me out at glendalediggs.com. But what's important, again, is that I am a working broker, a working real estate agent. I'm in the trenches with you guys. I have been on the wrong end of a disgruntled client phone call just as often as you have, and I know what it takes to run a business so that we don't have so much stress and anxiety. So here's the point of this entire presentation. Why do you need a CRM? CRM is contact relation management, and in the past CRMs were little more than a glorified Rolodex, a place to house your name, your phone number, then your email address, the birth date, maybe the kids' names, that kind of stuff. The old-fashioned Dale Carnegie, their name is the sweetest thing to them, and then talking to them about their lives. This is a place to handle the details of their lives, and that's all a CRM was in the past. But we've really grown, and CRMs are much, much more. So why do you need one? Okay. Well, at the end of the day, what we all know, any of us who are selling properties, our job is hard. I mean, it is hard. Anybody who tells you that this isn't a hard job is, well, they're just a stupid head. That's all I have to say. Because you know what? We have to create the clients. We got to prospect, network, social media marketing. We got to do the follow-up. Then we got to do the business once we get a client, right? We got to do the appointments and the paperwork and the follow-up and the negotiations. We need to coordinate and manage those vendors who don't show up when they're supposed to, right? We need to manage our real estate business. We got to find and hire staff, train them, manage them. We got to pay the bills. We got to manage our budget. Then we've got to do repeat and referral business, and we've closed escrow, right? But we want to get referrals, so we've got to stay relevant, stay in touch, be of value, don't spam, be real. This is hard. There's a lot, and we get it all done. We do, most of us, but what's the cost? I mean, what is the cost of keeping everything in the air? I know that before I was really using a great system, I often felt like that guy on Cirque du Soleil, right? You got your plate spinning on that little stick, right? And he gets them all spinning, and then one starts to wobble, and he races over, and he gets that one spinning again, and then another one wobbles, and he races over there and keeps that spinning. I felt like a plate spinner, constantly racing from crisis to crisis, and I'm not a crisis kind of person. But what I knew is that when I'm involved, when I'm living my life that way, I'm living my business this way, that I might have money, I might have accolades, I might have market share, I might have people giving me glowing testimonials and reviews, but I got no life. I got no hobbies, I got no time for my kids, I got no time to meditate, I got no time for nothing. And all of that money and accolades is completely empty if I do not have a life to live. So the reason you need systems, and Realvolve is way bigger than a place to hold names and phone numbers. It is an entire platform to organize your business. Without systems to organize your business, you can't run a great life. Now, here's the thing. Many of you on this webinar are interested in a CRM. You think you're going to need it. You may even feel like you need it now, but I don't think any of us would take time out of our work day to listen to a webinar if we weren't thinking, or at least hoping, that our business is going to grow, that our business is going to get maybe huge even. And I got to tell you, if you don't prepare in advance, you can't do it while it's there. When opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. You got to prepare before things get crazy, before they get chaotic, before they get overwhelming, right? And here's the other thing. If you don't know this now, then you heard it here first. Amateur hour is so over. You know, in the 1950s and 1960s, when our modern real estate system really began, it was great. You could get a real estate license, and you could bump into a few deals. You know, you could be a housewife that says, you know what, I'd really like to have something that occupies my time between, say, 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. And so I want to do something useful, and so I'm just going to do real estate, right? Or it would be the, well, I'm waiting for my ship to come in on a real business deal, but while I'm waiting, I'm going to sell real estate, right? That kind of amateur status, it is over. The gap between the people who got into real estate for shits and giggles to bump into a few deals, or whatever it is they're thinking about doing, the gap between them and those of us who are true professionals is getting bigger and bigger by the nanosecond. And the gap is already huge, and by the end of this year, it will be even larger. So if you aren't planning to be a professional, or if you aren't a professional now, you might as well go find another way to spend your time, because real estate's a pretty expensive hobby. I got news for you, right? So amateur hour is over. And what's the difference between an amateur and a professional? So this directly relates to the need for systems. I had a business mentor early in my business career that said, every deal has a brick wall of consequence in it somewhere, generally multiple brick walls of consequence, okay? And your goal here as a business person is to avoid slamming into that brick wall of consequence, right? Okay, so avoid the brick wall of consequence. Great business advice. So here's what an amateur does, right? Now, what's a brick wall of consequence? Brick wall of consequence is the loan contingency. If we don't get that loan done, that is a brick wall of consequence. If the loan doesn't get done, we don't get a deal. Consequence is unhappy buyer, unhappy seller, and unhappy agent, and unpaid agent, by the way, right? So you want to be able to do that. Now, an amateur doesn't have any skill, experience, they don't have any perspective, and they generally spend most of their time really close to the wall. Why is that? Because they didn't see the wall coming, that's why. So they spend a lot of time close up to that brick wall, and they spend all kinds of energy taking evasive maneuvers, danger, 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 Will Robinson, and so they're scrambling around, stressed out, freaked out, trying to avoid the brick wall of consequence. Oh no, the appraisal didn't come in. We've got to figure out how to solve it. Oh no, I have to do a tent, and what do you mean you can't get out of the house in time for me to do the tent? You got to leave, right? Brick wall of consequence. So they're spending all of this energy, this emotion, this chaos spinning to avoid the brick wall of consequence. As a result, the client is always uneasy. They're always wondering, what else is going to happen, and so they're calling the agent constantly. Did you do this? Are you doing that? I'm scared. I'm fearful. I'm stressed out. What's going to happen next, right? And as a consequence with that, The agent has no life whatsoever. That's an amateur. What does a professional do? A professional is completely in a different space. A professional has lots of skill, expertise, perspective, knowledge. This is not their first time through the rodeo. And they can see that brick wall of consequence from far, far away. And they know how to make minor course corrections. And by making these minor course corrections, they miss that brick wall. So remember in the amateur, we're talking about the termite, right? And forgetting that the termite needs to be scheduled and there's a tent, so everybody's got to get out of the house. Okay, the amateur doesn't do that until just before close of escrow. The professional gets a termite report done on the day they get the listing. They see a tent needs to happen. They talk to the seller and say, you got to be out of the house for 3 days. Can you plan a vacation or a long weekend trip? Okay, great, you got to do this. So they schedule the tent, it gets done, no muss, no fuss. Brick wall of consequence completely avoided. In fact, the client never even knew that wall was there. As a consequence, they feel completely secure. They don't call at 10 o'clock at night freaked out. The agent has lots of time for life or more prospecting. That's the difference between an amateur and a professional. And here's the thing. An amateur is in constant activity, constant drama, constantly spinning, and they're mistaking this activity for achievement. Everybody's got an agent in their office who is just hair on fire all the time. And I guarantee you that agent thinks that they are an absolute, they're all of it. They're doing so much for their client. They're working so hard. But they're doing activity, right? They're doing lots and lots of activity. And here's the thing. There's 2 types of activity, just 2 types. There's productive activity and there's non-productive activity. And that sounds really, really obvious, right? But you're going to be a little bit surprised as to what they are. Now, a normal agent, the one that's got their hair on fire all the time, they're spending 75% of their day on non-productive activity and only 25% of their time on productive activity. You might think, well, what's taking up 75% of their day? It's not just sitting around the water cooler talking about their lumbago. It is doing things like client assurance. Now, I didn't say that this wasn't important. This is important. I just said it was non-productive, okay? Client assurance, non-productive. Problem solving, non-productive. Important, non-productive. Paperwork, inspections, bookkeeping, preparing for presentations. I know many real estate agents who will take 2 full days to prepare for a listing presentation. Non-productive. Training and managing your staff. Logistics with vendors, completely non-productive, okay? So why do they do this? Why do they do all of these things? Well, I didn't say, again, that they weren't important. And they're important because they make the person who is doing all of this spinning feel like a superhero, right? When the client calls all freaked out, and you can sit there and explain to them calmly and assuredly that it's really not a problem, you've got it covered, you're going to handle it, or you're going to fix it, or here's the solution. Not only does a client feel like you are doing a lot for them, but you feel like you're doing a lot for them, and then you get to solve the problem, and so you get to stamp out the fire, and so cape there, you get to wear the superhero cape, and you walk around all day long feeling super, super important, but maybe not so productive. So here's what the ideal agent does. The ideal agent is spending 70% of their time doing productive activities and only 30% of their time doing non-productive activities. And you may be thinking, great, I don't want to be one of those agents who snaps the lockbox on and never looks back. I'm not going to abandon my client. I want to give great client service. Well, the ideal agent does give great client service. They just spend a hell of a lot less time doing it. So how do they do that? First of all, what is productive activity, right? What are they doing 70% of their time? You can't even figure out what they're doing if they're not doing client assurance and problem solving. First of all, prospecting. The very most favorite thing in every real estate agent's life. I know that you leap out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're thinking, I can't wait to get to my cold calling or my door knocking or my prospecting, right? So productive activity. Number 1, prospecting. Negotiations, productive activity. Listing appointments, the actual appointment, not the preparation. Listing appointments, productive. And showing appointments are productive. Okay, True, if you're showing Bob, who wants to see every house in town twice every weekend from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, and you're not even sure if he has the ability to get a loan, that's not very productive. But if you've got a 7-day buyer, somebody who's ready, willing, and able to buy a home within the next 7 days, that is productive. Okay, so that's what productive activity is. Now, what's the difference between an agent who spends all of their time doing the very important but non-productive activities versus the ideal agent who is spending most of their time doing productive activities but not ignoring their client? The first thing is they have great systems. The second thing is they know how to delegate the things that they are not best at or best suited for. And the third thing is they have a system where they can hold people accountable, both themselves and the people that work with and for them. That is the difference between an ideal agent and what I'll call the normal agent. And this is where we can help you. This is where Realvolve, or really any ideal system, can help you delegate, manage, and hold accountable the people that are in your life and have systems. So let's look at one way that we can do this. Now, every coach in the world has ever said failing to plan is planning to fail. So having a system means that you're going to have to use the system to plan for your business. Okay, it doesn't come out of the box perfect for your unique business. You've got to plan. How are we going to plan? What do we need? All right, why do we need a plan? What we need is, let's go with the football analogy, what we need is a playbook, right? We need a playbook for running our business. And in that playbook, we need a way to keep our contact data and the history, all of the information about their properties, their transactions, who referred them, how we got them, our conversations, both in email and in person and in text. We need it all, right? We want a way to intelligently be reminded to contact them, not contact them once a year, not contact them on their birthday, but contact them in ways that are relevant, meaningful, and valuable. Make it easy and automatic to contact them. Have an ironclad transaction management system. What I mean by ironclad, it's got to have every detail in it. If it doesn't have every detail in it, then you're going to be spending all kinds of time, usually at 2 o'clock in the morning, worrying about what you forgot to put into your management system, unless it's complete, right? You need to track and manage your dates and deadlines. You get past 4 deals all going at the same time, unless you're a lot smarter than me, and maybe you are, but for most of us, 4 deals and my brain is dead. I can't keep track of who's going to be removing their physical inspection contingency and when. You need to be able to delegate and hold accountable. Some of you have got assistants, but some of you are single agents, but trust me, you still have people you're delegating to, your escrow officer, your title person, your office manager, your transaction coordinator in the office. Delegate, but also hold them accountable. Don't let that stuff fall through the cracks. And then for those of us who do have a team, we have administrative staff or buyer's agents or more, we need to be able to run that team, and we need to coach them and hold them accountable. That's our playbook. That's what we need. So I'm going to take one little bit here. Transaction management, we can do all of the things that I just talked about, but transaction management and our workflows is one of our most powerful features. I'm going to take a moment to talk about it because I've never seen this power in any other platform. So in order to run a transaction, there's a certain set of to-dos that we've got to do, right? And some of us have a to-do list written out. Do you have a list? Do you know where it is? Do you know what it's managed on? Is it a Post-it? Is it the back of an envelope? Is it a note in Evernote? Maybe a piece of paper that you typed out once and you Xerox every day, right? Where's your list? And how do you use it, right? Ideally, especially if you have now or plan to have an assistant, it's got to be a computer system that you can share with somebody, right? So that kind of takes out the Post-it note in the back of the envelope. Does your to-do list go in a straight line? Does it go in a to-do list like first this one, then this one, then this one, then this one? You know, most to-do lists are, right? My transactions never go in a straight line. In fact, my transactions usually look like this. A many-headed hydra that can pivot and turn depending on circumstances. And I need a to-do list that pivots and turns just like this, right? So when I have a transaction management system, the to-do list, I want it to be like water. Okay, fair enough. I am a Bruce Lee fan. I hope somebody else is there. If you're a Chuck Norris fan, sorry. Bruce Lee is awesome. And when he was saying be like water, he was saying that you need to be able to flow into the space that is being occupied. So every transaction has a different shaped space, and we need to flow into that space in order to make sure that our client is completely cared for and that no details are left undone. And every deal is unique, right? Every single deal has its twists and turns. And when we have a to-do list, I want just the right to-dos, just in time. And I want just the right tools available to do it. And I want just the right person assigned to that to do. And I want it automated as much as possible, as our day is lost in 5-minute chunks. So I want to take those 5-minute chunks and I want to bust them down to 10 seconds or even 0. Now, what we do in Realvolve to make sure that your to-dos are that flexible is that we have something called an activity window. This is just like one little part of our program, but it's so powerful. I've never seen anything this powerful. First of all, this is what our adding an activity window looks like, and it doesn't look like too much. It's got some really great things in there, the title of the activity, who you're going to assign it to, when is it going to happen, right? But let me get into the details, and you'll see just how powerful this is. Number one, the timing of the do is very flexible. I often say that if your to-do list is cluttered with things that are not yet ready to be done, you're going to ignore the list altogether. And so on here we have set a specific date, yes, but the computed date is what's really important. We can take a to-do and we can say, I want this to happen so many days before or after, or weeks before or after, or months or years, and then it would be calculated off a particular date. It could be the day that you started the workflow, but it gets really important because we have dozens of trigger dates. So I've highlighted in termite inspection date, right? I have a to-do that says send a text to the seller reminding them that the termite inspection is tomorrow. And that to-do will show up on my assistant's dashboard the day before the termite inspection is actually due. But nobody had to check that deal. Nobody had to check the calendar. Nobody had to figure out, oh, wow, we should remind the seller. So I have dozens like that. When I do listings, there's a whole bunch of things that cannot happen, can't happen until I get my pictures. And so I can calculate a number of to-dos based on the day the pictures are actually going to be taken on my listing. Super powerful. Flexible frequency, this comes into a play when we're following up on a particular lead or prospect, right? You want to call them. I have this one set to weekly, repeat it every week, and I want to make my prospecting phone calls on Wednesday. Okay, so on Wednesday, anybody that has this workflow enacted is going to pop up and tell me to call that person, but I only want to do it so many times. I don't want to have a to-do to pop up every week for the rest of my life. I mean, I know you're supposed to call until they die or buy, but I don't work my business that way. You can. I like to call for a certain period of time, and then if they haven't responded, if they become a dead lead, I don't want to have that to-do show up anymore. So frequency is very, very flexible. We can do it every other week. We can do it every other week on a particular day. We can do it once a month. It just goes on and on and on. Automation is another important part of our to-dos, so powerful. We want things to show up, but we won't have to think about too much in order to execute the given activity. So in this particular case, it's create action, the title of the action, right? And then we can send messages. We can send email messages, text messages, Facebook messages, all kinds of ways. And we can decide if we want to review the message before it goes out, send it out manually, or send it out automatic. You know, it's a very basic text. It's got 5 words in it. I don't need to review it before it goes out. Boom, it goes out. Okay, and then you see this SE001 opening to seller. That is a template letter that I wrote when I had lots of time and bandwidth and could think about things strategically, and that letter goes out. So my assistant, my marketing manager, whoever I've assigned this to do, they can send a letter, and it's always to my standards and always in a tone of voice that I approve of because I wrote it. Then we can add or remove tags, right? This is an opening letter to the seller, so I might add the tag, current seller, and I might remove the tag, prospects seller. right? So now they're properly tagged, or I could start a new workflow. All of this in one activity comes in a simple checkbox on your dashboard. All right, speaking of checklists, we all have document compliance. I live in California, that's where I do business, and so we have a lot of documents. It's kind of astonishing. So here's a list, it's a partial list, but it's what I could show you, of the documents necessary to close out an escrow for us. These everything we need. And as my administrator is going through and she's collecting documents, she goes into this checklist and she just checks them off, got this, got this, got this. And at some point, she's going to say, I need to send a missing documents letter to the other agent. I need to tell them what I need. So she pulls up this activity. She sends a pre-written letter, and Realvolve knows which documents are missing, and it inserts just those documents into that letter, and it sends it out to the other agent. We need the following documents. Please advise, right? And then this thing will pop up again if we haven't got all the documents, and mark this as a completed checklist. And maybe she got 2 more of the 5 missing documents. They'll send out a letter to the agent and say, thanks so much, but we still need these 3 documents. Please advise. So it's very powerful for document compliance. For me, this is a mind-blown moment. I've never seen a system that is so specific to what I do, and it helps me do things to such a professional and granular level. So let's take a look at my deal, right? I told you my deal looks like a many-headed hydra. This happens to be a flow chart that shows you my process from listing appointment all the way to closing the escrow, representing my seller. And I just wanted to kind of go through it so you can see how these powerful activities play out in a particular transaction. So the first thing that happened from a listing appointment, 3 things can happen. Either we don't get it, we get it, or there's no decision, right? So if we don't get the listing, the workflow is pretty obvious. You need to go prospecting to get more appointments. But more often than not for me, there was no decision. They're not ready to sell yet. They want to interview other agents. They were just gathering data as to whether they should have sell or they should actually remodel. And so for me, in the past, out of sight, out of mind. If I walked out of there without a signed listing agreement, I never wanted to talk to them again. I might send a thank you letter, but that's it. I'd like to tell you it's because I had so many leads, and but actually I'm just a great big chicken. I didn't want to hear no. So if I put in a workflow to follow up with this no decision seller, I have a better chance of getting that listing, right? I send pre-written letters that are very specific to that seller and that situation, so it doesn't look like a templated letter, so that I can keep in touch with them. I schedule some phone calls. I schedule specific dates when I'm going to update their market analysis, and I do this when I'm not in a great big ball of fear that they're going to reject me. I do this when I'm feeling powerful. I planned it all out. And here's the thing. I'm going to list 4 properties this spring simply because I did this kind of follow-up. That's powerful. That's powerful. Now, the other thing that can happen is we could get the listing, right? When we get a listing, there's a bunch of things that we do, a standard operating procedure. I call that general marketing, the usual marketing to-dos. Document compliance we talked about. But how about client expectation letters? We know what's going to happen week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. We know. Why don't we write that in a letter when we're thinking about things globally and inform the seller, this is week 1, this is what's going to happen, this is what you need to do, this is what I'm going to do, we got your back, right? Wouldn't that be great? We don't have the time to do that while we're in the deal flow, but when we're thinking about it, pre-written, it's awesome. Auto order the reports. In California, we have title companies. I order a title report the minute I get the listing signed. You know what? It used to be a 5-minute phone call. Call up the title rep. Hey, I need a preliminary title report, this address, this APN number, bill it to this escrow, CC these people. Yeah, 5-minute phone call. But it always morphs. How's it going? How's life? What are your plans for 2016? All of that. So a 5-minute phone call turns to a 10-minute phone call. We lose our day in 5-minute chunks. Better to have a pre-written email template with all of the unique information, property address, the APN number, the escrow officer, everybody that needs to get CC'd on the preliminary title report. Send that auto email request with a click of a button. Now it's gone from 5 minutes to 5 seconds. We lose our day in 5-minute chunks. This is what a great system can do for you. But you know what? We talked about, sorry about that. Let's go back to this one. We talked about how each deal is unique, right? So, like for example, the listing I took, maybe it's a condo and it's got a PUD and I've got to do all the document compliance checklist for an HOA. Maybe it's in a city that has specific city requirements in order to process that whole listing. In LA, it'd be a 9A report. In the city of Pasadena, it'd be a city occupancy inspection or retrofit. There are things that are unique to your particular cities and municipalities. Wouldn't it be great if the to-do list that you had for your listing was specific to the locality and the situation of that listing? How about if you get a referral, right? Maybe you get a referral from an agent or from a good friend. Wouldn't it be great if you enrolled that person who referred you into the process itself? What if you were to, on the day that your listing goes live, send them an email and say, hey, you know what, your friend Joe is going on the market today. You might want to give him a call. He's probably pretty nervous. By the way, our open house is this Sunday. Here's a link to the invite. Can you pass that around to all your friends? I'm sure Joe would really appreciate it. I think that's a fabulous idea. I've always thought it was a fabulous idea, and I managed to enact it about 10% of the time before I had an ironclad transaction system. Now it happens on a regular basis, and oh, by the way, I didn't send the letter. My assistant did. It took her 5 seconds. It was in my tone of voice, right? Okay, so once you've actually enacted that listing, one or two things can happen. The first thing can happen is get any offers. Bummer, right? But now you go into listing maintenance. So now we've got a workflow that talks about open houses, which are a little bit different for me after the first one. And then seller reports. We've got to communicate with our seller. We've got to tell them what's going on, why their house hasn't sold, all the things that you've done. Here's a great thing. Realvolve will send a letter to your seller. It will only contain the information that has happened since the last time you sent them the seller update. We tend to send them once a week. And so on week 1, we send a whole bunch of to-dos, and then we're going along. And on week 2, we send a new letter, and Realvolve knows which items we have already sent to the seller. So it's so great for seller communication, letting them know what's going on. But the other thing that can happen, we had no offer, we could get an offer. Glory, hallelujah. After you finish your happy dance, you've got to enact your seller escrow workflow. And there's a whole bunch of things that you do as every single time, our standard operating procedure, your document compliance, client communication. There's going to be templated letters like I've imagined. You've got to juggle the deadlines, right? So we've got to put them in the calendar, make sure that everybody knows when the contingencies are due. We've got to assign our task. We've got to calculate the dates of when things are going to happen. So Realvolve helps you do all of those standard operating procedure. But every deal is unique, right? So here's some situations that happen on some of my deals, but not all of them. We talked about what happens with a referral. What about the loan? Right here in California, we get all cash offers. We don't get them every deal, but we get them frequently enough. And you know what? I don't want to have to-dos cluttering up my dashboard that are talking about following about the loan when it's an all-cash deal. It's an all-cash deal, we don't need to look at those. So let's set those aside and only enact them when they actually matter. HOA, we talked about that. We need to order our budget, bylaws, articles of corporation, insurance, and the minutes, right? So we got to order all of that, but I don't want to order it for the single-family dwelling. Backup offer. Okay, here's bonus points for you. I always thought it would be really cool that if I got a backup offer, small fall situation, we take in buyer 1, but we take buyer number 2 into backup position to enroll the backup agent so that they know what's going on in the deal, so they can communicate with their buyer. What's the purpose? We want that buyer feeling like they've got a chance of getting this property. But here's what I usually did before I had the system. I would take the backup offer. I would forget they exist until buyer number 1 rides off in the sunset and doesn't want to do business with anymore. I go to the backup offer, and they've already bought another property because they had no idea what was happening with ours. Wouldn't it be great if we automatically coded in letters that informed the other agent what was happening with our current deal so that they'll be there when we need them? Wouldn't that be great? Well, I do that now. And I do that because it's coded into my ironclad transaction management system. And I've been talking about letters. I've been talking about how powerful our letter system is. I wanted to show you a real quick example. This is a typical letter for us, right? I think everybody on this call does exactly the same thing. You enter into escrow, and immediately you're going to send a letter to, at a minimum, the other agent. You're going to tell the other agent, here are the people on your transaction. Here's how you contact them. This is what they do. Here are the dates and the deadlines that we've calculated. Please inform us if you have any differences of opinion on those dates, right? I'm sure you all do this letter. And when I was doing them manually, it would take me me somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes to pull up all the information, format it, look up the phone number, type it in, calculate all the dates, type those in. And since I'm a little bit, OCD, I would also type up a different letter, with more or less the same information, but slightly different to the escrow officer and then the other agent, and then my client would get a letter like this. That's 3 different letters with kind of the same information, but not completely. And I would take, 10, 20 minutes for each letter, right? Okay. This is the letter in Realvolve. Looks exactly the way it does when we send out something on a transaction. And these in red are all of the information fields that Realvolve inserts automatically. By the way, it is all the information that is in fact unique to that particular transaction. So the stuff in black, that stuff happens on every single letter for every single transaction that goes to the other agent. The information in red is going to change depending on who's working in my business and who is involved in this particular deal, and of course the dates and the deadlines. And because of the template, I have 3 different versions of this letter. They're all slightly different, and they all contain this important information that everybody needs to have so we're all on the same page. But it takes me, it takes my administrator 5 seconds to send each one of these letters. Our day is lost in 5-minute chunks, or in this case, 10 or 20-minute chunks. So isn't it great? What a great time saver to send this stuff out and to do it efficiently, professionally, and in an ironclad transaction management way. Now, I have to tell the truth. I mean, you're looking at this, and I know I'm talking really fast, and I'm giving you a lot of information, and most, maybe all of you are in a state of overwhelm right now, and I apologize, kind of, except this is the stuff you need. Dudes, you need this. You're actually doing this. You're not aware that you're doing this. You're doing this already. I'm just showing it to you in 33 minutes. But it's hard. It's hard to codify this stuff. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, why would you be the professional? If it wasn't hard, the amateurs would do it. If it wasn't hard, then your niece, who was 16 years old and just graduated from high school, could do this. But we know, as professionals, we do a better job of this than the amateurs. So it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't, then everyone would do it. It's the hard that makes us professionals. It's the hard that sets us apart. It's the hard because we do it and we do it well. It's the hard that makes us stand out above all the other agents. It's why our repeat and referral business is so solid. I'm just trying to tell you there's an easier, more predictable way of doing what you're already doing. And by the way, yes, I know there's no crying in baseball. I would like to tell you there's no crying in real estate, but since I shed tears on a regular basis, I really couldn't tell you that. So workflow ideas. What can you use the power of a workflow for? Okay, so let me give you some ideas. You can use it to run your listing and buying escrows. That's kind of obvious, right? But also your leases. I don't know about you, but I don't know how to run leases differently than my listing marketing. So you could do that, and also running the quote-unquote escrow. Listing marketing. My listing marketing checklist has something like, 62 items. It's kind of crazy. Contact follow-up. How many of you have been doing business long enough that you have lost track of who your contacts are? How many of you have suffered the pain and indignity of seeing your buyer that you thought was your buyer buy from somebody else, and you know without a shadow of a doubt that if you had just remembered to call them, they would have been your buyer, and that would have been your escrow? How many of you have driven by your neighbor's house and a for sale sign popped up, and you know that it's because you did the listing presentation and then you never followed up, that you didn't keep in touch? And yeah, the listing presentation was 2 years ago. So what? You didn't keep in touch and they listed with somebody else. Contact follow-up, so powerful. Lead generation response. I have a workflow where a Zillow lead comes into my email, it gets sucked out of my email, and we automatically send somebody a text, and then it goes out and gets assigned to an agent. So lead generation response. Seller lead follow-up. I've talked about that a little bit. Keep in touch after close. Oh my gosh, so keep in touch after close, and don't whine about if you think of anybody who wants to buy or sell, please remember to call me. No. Keep in touch after close in a relevant and valuable way. Would that be cool? right? So that's what we use workflows for. Then there's small workflows, right? There are things that are just like a few actions long, referral updates, asking for reviews, multiple offers, maintaining your listing, adjusting the price, relaunching a listing after it's been taken off the holidays. We're using that one a lot. Expiring listing, publishing your content, annual events that you do in your brokerage. There's so many things that you can use workflows. A friend of mine, Gloria, she often says this, and I love her for it. She says, I write a workflow for anything that I would do more than once in my business. And she's a workflow powerhouse, right? But that's not all. Okay, not all. That's just workflows. We do all of the stuff that you would expect a CRM to do, right? We're going to house all your contacts data. We're going to help you sort and prioritize your contacts so you don't lose track of them. We'll help you keep all your notes. We'll help you filter, manage, group, and tag. We do all of those things that a CRM does. So I just wanted to show you actually a little bit what it is that we can do for you. So this is Realvolve. Now we're live. This is our dashboard. These widgets right here help you to assess your business and to know visually in a snapshot where you stand. We're in January, so there's not any numbers there, but we can help you. This is being developed and fleshed on a constant basis, and soon this will be the most powerful part of the dashboard. I live here, by the way, guys. The first thing I do in the morning is I fire up my Realvolve. Well, okay, first thing I do is I fire up my email, but second thing is Realvolve. Notes and correspondence is right here in the middle. These are all the things that have happened in my business. Since I'm the account owner, I also see the notes and correspondence that my agents have made on their contacts that they got from me. That's the way I've set it up. You can set it up any way you want to. Over on this side, we've got our activities. These are the things that I have scheduled for myself today. Today is not too bad. I spent a lot of time clearing out activities. Sometimes as much as 20 things on this. These are urgent to-dos for right now. They're relevant. They're just in time. It's what I need to get done. Okay? We can start workflows from here, and we can also schedule a to-do on the fly right here on our dashboard. So this is a really, really powerful place. Over here is our control panel. This is where we're controlling what we see. We can control our contacts. We can see our properties. We can see our transactions. We can see all the files and documents that we've put in there. We can also see all of our tags and our tasks. Okay? Now I'm going to take a look at our contacts, because that's where we're going to be spending most of our time. What's important about a database is to be able to see just the contacts you need to see. 4,000 contacts, too overwhelming, can't even deal with that. I just want to see the contacts that I need to interact with. So you can search for a contact in our search anything box up there. You type anything in there to bring your records, but you can also search for your contacts by tags. You just want to see people who are tagged by the people who have an annual CMA tag. I can pull it up and just see those people. We can. Some people like to take a look at their contacts and rate them A, B, C, D. I can sort them by that. If you are a team lead and you've got buyer's agents, we can see the contacts that belong to those particular team leaders. I can sort by person and company, by who referred them to me, how I got the contact. I only want to talk to the people who I met door knocking because I have something relevant to tell them, right? I can also do it by all the people who don't have an email, because email, I already sent them out, don't have an email, I need to call them on the phone, right? Or I want to just pull up all the contacts that have birthdays in January, right? So I go that January, I pull up those people, and I can write out my birthday cards. I got Monina and Simone, can write up my birthday cards for that particular month. I can also find them by when their purchase anniversary is. I'm going to pull up everybody who's got a purchase anniversary in January, send out CMAs as a batch project for a particular day, or their relationship anniversary. There's a zillion different ways that I can do this, sort my contacts and make them relevant and make them useful for that day. Let's see. Let me show you a client contact, because this is our client contact information is just so powerful. Oops, come back. Okay, Mike Canterbury. Here he is. Why are you doing that? Excuse me while I work through this. Okay, so Mike Canterbury, that's contact in my database. And so it has all the information you would expect up here, the phone number, email address. This is a relationship score that will help you figure out if there's somebody that you need to put a little more attention to because the relationship score is low. I can email them from here. I can text them from here. And I'm a Power Evernote user, so I could link an Evernote notebook to here. So I have all the information that I need. You can see this is a note that I wrote in Evernote, sucked it right into my Realvolve. This is my comm log. This is a log of all the communications that I've had with Mike, so I know at a glance what has been said and what has been tracked. I have him tagged a whole bunch of different ways, and I can use this to workflow. On the contact tab, to give you an idea of how we collect information, all the information you would expect, right? The home address, work address, additional information, then personal details. This is one of the most powerful features. The way Realvolve handles marrieds is amazing, or just people who are in a relationship with you, and that's always been a problem with other databases. I can link the wife's card to the husband's card. They're linked together. And so I can always just click and I can see everything on Mary's card. So on Mary's card, I have just her phone number and her email. In this particular case, she uses all of Mike's. But I can have information that's just pursuant to her so that I am always current. And when I send out an email, Realvolve will know, do I want to send it to both of them or just one of them? And it also helps me address it, right? So some people want to be greeted by Mike and Mary. Some are going to be Dr. Canterbury and Mary. Some are going to be, there's everything in the world that we can put in there, and Realvolve allows me to customize it so that when we greet people, it is relevant and the way they're most comfortable. I never sound like a templated robot. Birth
Kendyl,
dates and all the things that you would.
I wanted to add one thing that is relatively new. In the upper
Right.
right-hand corner of the contact record, where you can send a quick email and SMS message, if
Right.
you add a contact social link, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, if you add those URLs and you click on one of those, it will open their Facebook page, LinkedIn, and it's a good way if you are getting ready to have a conversation with one of your contacts. You can quickly go to their Facebook page and see if there's any relative content that they've posted that you can have a conversation about. Additionally, for some of your more social contacts, you can even send them a tweet directly from Revolve. That's all.
What's become incredibly important, and I think that if you need to know this, your clients have a preferred method of communicating. Now, some of them, their preferred method of communicating, frankly, are smoke signals, and we can't handle that. But wherever they like to communicate, that's where you need to communicate with them. So if they're a Twitter-holic and they're always on Twitter, you need to talk to them on Twitter. Realvolve allows you to do that. I have several very, very busy mommies, and the only way I can talk to them is text. So I had better use this text button here and talk to them using SMS. We allow you to do that. I've got some professionals, they're always on LinkedIn. So I need to be able to talk to them on LinkedIn. Send them an email. I have a chiropractor. He never checks his email. Secretary does, but he doesn't. But he's always on LinkedIn, right? So we need to communicate with our clients when, where, and how they need to be communicated with. Don't force them to use email because you don't know how to use LinkedIn. Don't do it.
Right.
You won't have that relationship.
And
right?
consider, these are human beings. If you consider, the people that you're closest to in life that you don't necessarily consider your real estate business contacts, one of the biggest questions that we get most frequently is, can I send drip campaigns through Revolve? Well, of course you can, but it's really hard to maintain and foster a true relationship that way. I mean, can you imagine if you just sent drips to your best friend or relatives? That's not how relationships are fostered and improved. So it's important to take the time and listen how they want to communicate and communicate with them accordingly. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Kendyl.
Oh, no. I think that's such an important. I have another friend, Gwen. She's like, no drips, ever, ever, ever. There's times when you might want to do a quote-unquote drip, but let's make it relevant. And I believe that the reason that real estate agents have defaulted to using drip email is that it was just too frackin' hard to do it any other way. And what we want to do at Realvolve is we want to make your business so relevant and to make it so easy for you to be authentic and uniquely engaged with each person that's important to be engaged with, that you won't feel like you need to do a drip so you can just, be in front of their eyes. That whole direct marketing thing, it doesn't matter that they're going to throw it directly in the trash when they get it, because all that's important is their name, that they see your name as it goes into the trash. Those days are gone, guys. And the reason that we as an industry haven't embraced this authentic communication is because we haven't had a tool that makes it easy. And that's what Realvolve is designed to do. We're designed to help you stay in front of and relevant and valuable people who are most likely to want to do business with you. So that was kind of what I had to share with you. I know it was a huge data dump. This webinar is recorded. It is going to go out to all of those of you who signed up so that you can listen to it again for the bits that you might have missed, or I was just talking too freaking fast. But I hope that this has been really helpful. I think that if you're not using a CRM, the obvious choice here is to join Realvolve and start playing with it, because even if you're a single agent who only sold 2 houses last year, trust me, you want to grow your business, and you don't want to start using Realvolve when you've got no time and no bandwidth to make it work right.
Right. And keep in mind that building those workflows, creating those templates take time. But the infrastructure, the tools, the guidebook, the member resources of other users are there to help you.
Oh, snap. I forgot to tell him something, Dave.
Yes.
I forgot to tell him that you can acquire other real estate agents' workflows.
Right.
You can actually have my workflows. You can have pretty much everything that I use, and it's $3.99 for all the letters that I've written, all of the to-do lists for listings and buyer-controlled escrows and marketing and all the stuff that I talked about. So, but there's lots of them. You don't have to use mine. You might find me just too not what you want.
Can you show where that library is, Kendyl?
I should do that. Huh?
Can you go there? And I want to explain. I mean, you can build your own. I mean, you can build 100 different workflows out there, guys. But we know how busy it is, and sometimes it helps to get a jump start to get some ideas and not have to sit down and write for hours all of your templates. And we created a workflow library to be able to help with that. There are some free resources in the library. We have even done a ton of custom setups for new customers. And when we do it on our end, we are usually charging between $2,000 and $5,000 a customer to do. Kendyl has put together and offered the Digs Complete Suite. Normally she sells that for $1,200. Revolve has acquired those workflows, and you can purchase them for $3.99. I don't have an elegant way for you to buy them. If you want them, send me an email to dave@realvolve.com. We will send you the download code, and we can just charge the card that we have on file. But can you show what is in that complete suite, Kendyl?
Good Lord. What's in the complete suite? Well, when you click on the complete suite, it gives you some descriptions of the workflows that are included. At one point, I had broken them down into different sections, and so there's more detailed descriptions in each one of the sections, and it tells you what it is I'm trying to accomplish, and it gives you the names of the workflows that are included, and also, does it also list out template letters? I'm not even sure if it lets out template letters, but it gives you a sense of what is included, okay? Also, to kind of go, for those of you on the call who might be Keller Williams agents, this is a free workflow. It is based on the 33 touch points and is written by Gary Keller. So this is completely pursuant to what you're being taught within your brokerage. So you might want to acquire that one and use those workflows and those template letters. But no matter who you choose, and there are people here that you may know and love, no matter who you choose, it is easier to modify something existing than it is to come up with it from scratch, right? So just know that. Here's my friend Gloria Singer. She is almost as OCD as I am. So here's one of her workflows. It's the keep in touch workflows, right? Dave Beeson is a trainer that's been out there, I think, since time began, and he has all of these letters that he's written, and those are part of our workflows, and you can acquire those as a premium. And so I would encourage you to click through these and explore. And look at these descriptions and see if they tend to fit your business and the way you like to work.
Thank you. Awesome. We've received a ton of feedback on this webinar already, Kendyl. You did a fantastic job. And I apologize if we have not been able to get to your question. We are going to be exiting here shortly. Send us an email to support@revolve.com if we were unable to get to you, and we will absolutely answer your questions. If you want Kendyl's complete suite of workflows, send an email to me, Dave. We can charge your card $399. That's discounted from $1,200. So it's a great deal to help you jumpstart getting things automated for the year and years to come. Did you have anything else you'd like to share, Kendyl?
No. Well, yeah, because I like to talk. I'm a salesperson. One of the things that I think is often overlooked, and I personally think it's my finest work, is the keep in touch, what I call the referral generator workflows, and that's included in the suite. And I have never seen a follow-up system that allows me to be relevant to my clients that didn't look like a whiny plea for a referral. In these particular workflows, I've written a series of letters designed to showcase you as a local expert in the neighborhood. For example, sending them a letter to all your favorite restaurants in the area right at the point where they've really, really gotten tired of takeout pizza, right? It requires you to do some work. You've got to list out what your favorite restaurants are. But having some templates like this that allow you to be the undisputed expert in the local area, so valuable. So I just wanted to kind of give you a sense, because you would expect escrows and listing management and whatnot, but not everybody expects those workflows.
Wonderful. You are awesome, Kendyl. Thank you so much for all the contributions you have made to Revolve. We are beyond thrilled to have you on the team. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us. We did record this. We are going to send out for everybody's review. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week. If you're going to be at Inman Connect next week in New York City, we will have a booth. Please come see us. We're going to have quite a few members of the Revolve team, including superstar Kendyl Young. So have a wonderful day, everybody. We will talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.